Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished guests, speakers, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our public seminar on navigating the India-Indonesia bilateral relationship in a changing global order. My name is Peter Pandy, and it is my honor to be your host for today's event. This event is organized by the Center for Strategic and International Studies, Indonesia, and Gateway House. The discussion will aim to reflect on India and Indonesia's position in the changing global order and the current state of India-Indonesia bilateral relations, offering practical recommendations for future cooperation and policy alignment. The seminar is also part of the second iteration of the India-Indonesia Track 1.5 dialogue convened by CSIS Indonesia and Gateway House. Last but not least, I would like to once again extend a warm welcome to our distinguished guests, speakers, and participants, as well as the delegation from India who have graciously joined us today in Jakarta. Welcome to Jakarta, and we hope that you enjoy your stay. Now, without further ado, to formally open our seminar, may I invite Dr. Yose Rizal Damuri, Executive Director of CSIS Indonesia, to the podium for welcoming remarks. Pak Yose, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning to you all. It is really a pleasure to welcome you to CSIS and also to welcome you to the seminar Navigating the India-Indonesia Bilateral in the Changing Global Order. This seminar is a part of the second India-Indonesia Track 1.5 dialogue. Welcome again and a very good morning to you all. Allow me first to extend my warmest welcome actually to Bapak Dindin Wahyudin, Special Advisor to the Foreign Minister of Economic Diplomacy, Excellency Ambassador Sandeep Chakravorty, Ambassador of India to Indonesia, Ambassador Ina Krisnamurthi, Ambassador of Indonesia to India, who's joining with us online, I believe. Bu Ina, thank you for your presence, although it's still online. As well as, of course, our colleague from India, especially Manjeet, my longtime friends, Manjeet Kripalani, the Executive Director and Co-founder of Gateway House, Ambassador Rajiv Bhatia, Distinguished Fellow Gateway House, as well as Pak Yusuf Wanandi also, and Bapak Riki Eka Firgana Iksan, Director for South and Central Asian Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Republic of Indonesia. Well, distinguished guests, colleagues from Indonesia and also from India, the delegation from India, friends from academia, government, industry, and diplomatic community who will be joining us for the bilateral dialogue, 1.5 track bilateral dialogue that we're going to have in the next 2 days. So let me talk a little bit about this 1.5 track bilateral dialogue. The idea of this dialogue actually came quite a long time ago when I and Manjeet did have conversations, especially during our intensive collaborations in the Think 20 and G20 Indonesia as well as in India. But last year, Ambassador Chakravorty, thanks to Ambassador Chakravorty and also Ambassador Ina Krisnamurthi, they also raised this idea again and then make it implementable at that time. So last year we convene leading expert officials and business leaders to discuss about the relationship between the two countries on various areas, from defense and maritime security, trade and supply chain, cyber security, energy security, and many other things. And during our discussions last year in India, actually, we recognize there is a big gap between the potential of bilateral relations and the lack of knowledge between the two countries and the two nations. We learn also that the two countries, the two nations share a lot of areas, share a lot of aspiration and outlook, but at the same time, we also have different priorities. We have also discussed during the first dialogues about areas of cooperations that can elevate their relations even further, such as on energy transitions or defense and maritime cooperations. What we need is to have better understanding to each other and the willingness to learn more from each other, from India and Indonesia. So our bilateral dialogue at that time, last year's, was quite successful, meaning that we learned from each other quite a lot. We share many various understanding, and we're going to, one of the point that our bilateral dialogues was also recognized in the joint statement of President Prabowo and Prime Minister Modi during President Prabowo visit to India, January this year. So this is a good achievement for us, that the two nations recognize that we need to do more in understanding and building trust to each other. This year, we gather again for the second time to deepen our standing and also to discuss further the cooperations that have been initiated during President Prabowo's visit to India. We also recognize that the global situation has evolved a lot compared to last year. When we have our first dialogue, with these new dynamics, we will have new area of focus in our discussion, such as digital connectivity, disaster resilience, food resilience, healthcare and pharmaceutical, and of course, the changing global dynamic itself, and how to respond to the possible emerging new world arrangements that we might be having in the near future. On the side note, still relevant for that, CSIS is also currently supporting one of ASEAN's initiative called ASEAN Geoeconomic Task Force, which give recommendations to the leaders of ASEAN to respond to the current global shift. One of the recommendations is to strengthen the region not only as production hub, but also as important part of global demand. In order to do that, ASEAN cannot do it alone. That's why CSIS and other think tanks in the region promote the idea of having stronger and more relevant regional economic, comprehensive economic partnership, or RCEP, including by calling RCEP leaders meetings next October during ASEAN Summit. While India is not part of RCEP, yet, at least right now, we're still hoping that India will join RCEP, not in the near future. Well, India's position is very critical in promoting more meaningful regional integrations that would be also beneficial to Indonesia and India relations. So this global context or regional context really put Indonesia and India relations as a critical point, and we do have a lot to contribute to in order to strengthen the regional integration, as well as to contribute to the making of new arrangements, new global arrangements that currently undergoing. After this public event this morning, we will have roundtable discussions that involve government officials, industry stakeholders, as well as wider civil society and knowledge communities. This hopefully will produce practical recommendations for elevating the relations between the two nations and build foundation for long-term trust, resilience, and innovations. These are also in line with the spirit of Bandung Principles, which the 70th anniversary we celebrate this year, and still relevant, especially for currently when we're having this new global shift, global dynamic. Although the roundtable will be closed-door discussions, we will share the output to you all in various platforms and expect to have more support, more for making the concrete collaborations in the future. So before ending my remarks, I would like to extend my gratitude again to the Gateway House for our long-standing collaborations, as well as to the Embassy of India to Indonesia and Embassy of Indonesia to India for supporting us in order to have this roundtable dialogue going on. And we do hope that this support, these collaborations will last much longer in the future, and to have greater collaborations in the future. So thank you again for your participations. I wish everyone a fruitful and engaging discussions today. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your remarks, Dr. Yose. Next, may I please invite Ambassador Rajiv Bhatia, Distinguished Fellow for Foreign Policy Studies at Gateway House, to deliver his welcoming remarks. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Good morning to all of you. They have a very special way to do it in Africa. They start the speech by saying, all protocols observed. But we are not in Africa, we are in Asia. And therefore, with the utmost sincerity, I would like to start by thanking Professor Jose Rizal Damuri, Executive Director of CSIS, and his entire team for extending to us amazing assistance and collaboration. Without their enthusiastic support, the second round simply would not have happened. We are also very grateful by the presence of every one of you here. But in particular, I would like to express our great joy that this event has been once again blessed by the presence of Pa Yusuf Wanandi, who is an institution by himself, and I urge our delegation members to find time and talk to him to get his insights about this country and this region. Thank you very much, Pa Dindin Wahyuddin, Ambassador Wahyuddin, representing the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other senior officials. I think your presence here shows that what we are doing has some relevance and some use. And our heartfelt thanks, of course, go to two other very important people. Ambassador Ina, sitting in Delhi, with a strong force of support for us, and Ambassador Sandeep and his team, who's in full strength present here today, as an index to their support to public diplomacy efforts which are being run or managed for the larger interest of India and Indonesia. So, since Jose, my dear friend, has already done and said all the right things, and since Wafa has been very generous to give me another 12 or 13 minutes, I wondered as to what new I can say in order to break the ice between us and create just the right ambience for serious professional level dialogue that would follow today. So I thought, looking at this audience, where there is a clear majority of 30 and 40-year-olds, I should take you down the memory lane a little bit. Not necessarily personal memory, but the memory of our two countries together. I think it is right to say that we, involved in the management of India-Indonesia relations, formally or informally, stand on the shoulders of tall men and women in the past. Sometimes we may think that we have done a lot for the relationship, but we are tiny specks in the vast ocean of friendship and mutual collaboration that existed between our two civilizations over a long time. Now, there is not ample time to take you through all the phases. It is not necessary because you know them. But in particular, I would like to refer to the contribution of two persons, both Indians, but with regard to their interactions and contribution to the relationship with Indonesia. Rabindranath Tagore, the famous Nobel laureate, poet and dramatist and literature from India. Many of us know that he came on a visit to Southeast Asia in 1927, July to September. And he spent time in Siam, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, but the bulk of his time was in a country called Indonesia, which did not exist then. He came to Borobudur and Bali, Java and Bali. He wrote 5 poems during that period, 3 of them on Indonesia. And he wrote a large number of letters about his travels within this country. And I want to say that anyone who is interested in appreciating and comprehending the fine points of this relationship needs to go back to some of his work. Because when I was serving here in the Indian Embassy back in the 80s, and we heard that Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi was coming on a state visit at the invitation of President Suharto, there was a big challenge facing the ambassador, my boss, and myself, as to how to produce a speech at the state banquet at Bina Graha that will capture the imagination of the people in both countries. And you know what we did? We fell back on the work of Rabindranath Tagore. And this phrase, which then became the signature tune because my boss, Manjeet Kripalani, liked it so much that India-Indonesia dialogue became the journey of two companion souls. So two companion souls in terms of culture, civilization, kindred intellectual spirit, that is who we are. And I think we need to remind ourselves that in the complexity of geopolitics, that remains an unalterable fact. One more point about Tagore, and I move on. And there lies a very relevant lesson for all of us who visit Indonesia from time to time from India. Tagore writes that when he was coming to Indonesia, Southeast Asia in general, he learnt and read a lot about how India had contributed so much to Southeast Asia. But he was a man of future. And he said, he wrote, when I go to Southeast Asia and when I go to Indonesia, I should not go with any false sense of pride that only India has contributed to Indonesia and not the other way. That was the greatness of our great poet, which we need to remind ourselves, because I'm just quoting him so that you get a feel of this. This is what Tagore writes. When I go to Java, let me rid of my mind of pride and be humble on seeing how the undying essence of truth works. And one of the famous critics of Tagore's work, he is commenting on letters from Tagore, and he writes, indeed, Tagore's letters carry a sense of wonder in meeting people so unfamiliar that have taken so much and yet have so much to give. That is the essence of India-Indonesia friendship: equality, mutual respect, and complete lack of arrogance. These are still the values, I believe, very relevant here. And very quickly, at the request of one of the delegation members, let me also remind of a more contemporary period. We all have heard about the great contribution of Jawaharlal Nehru and President Sukarno. But then a little known man and yet an ace pilot, Biju Patnaik, who later became the chief minister of Odisha, the eastern province, from where till today, every year, Bali Jatra boats proceed and celebrate those centuries-old travels that Indians did to get to Java and Bali. Biju Patnaik was a young man. Indonesia had announced its independence in 1945 and then ran into trouble because Dutch wanted to re-establish their colonialism. And they arrested Sultan Shahryar and the vice president, Hatta, in a house, and Nehru called Biju Patnaik, young, daring pilot, so go and get them rescued. This man came in his plane, landed in Jakarta, and rescued the two big future leaders of Indonesia. And of course, Indonesians were very appreciative. They wanted to give him a lot of things. He declined to take anything. But eventually he had the ultimate gift. He had the privilege to name the daughter of President Sukarno, who in turn, in her own turn, became the president of Indonesia, Megawati. So dear friends, as we look to the future, we have to keep remembering the history of this relationship. And I again urge the young scholars who are here and who may be listening to us that please don't think that we are anywhere on our own. In the end, in the last 2-3 minutes that I have, I would like to say that we have made some substantial gains in the dialogue in Mumbai. But at best, we have made the foundation. I think this time here in Jakarta, we are set to build the ground floor. And we may not be content with the ground floor. We may wish later to bring the first floor up as well. So today, building the ground floor, let us remember that we have come after a long journey We have to understand each other better, and in that closed door round table, let us be frank, let us be candid, and let us be constructive so that we could truly say that all this trouble of traveling for 12 hours or more was worth it because we contributed to something tangible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your warm remarks, Ambassador. Next, we have two excellent and insightful speakers to deliver the keynote addresses in this opening session, which may serve as food for thought for us throughout the seminar. First, as you know, we have invited His Excellency Sugiono, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, to deliver the first keynote address, but unfortunately he's unable to attend. In his place, we have the honor of having Excellency Pak Dindin Wahyudin, Special Advisor to the Foreign Minister on Economic Diplomacy, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to deliver the keynote address. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome His Excellency Pak Dindin.
Very good morning to you all. Yang terhormat Dr. Yose Rizal Damuri, Executive Director of CSIS Indonesia, Honorable Manjeet Kripalani, Executive Director Gateway House Mumbai, Her Excellency Ibu Ina Krisnamurthi, who is joining us online from New Delhi, His Excellency Mr. Sandeep Chakravorty, Ambassador of India to the Republic of Indonesia, and Pak Yusuf Wanandi, and also I acknowledge Pak Dubes Rizal Sukma also, my mentor and my senior. At the outset, I would like to convey the apologies of the Foreign Minister Sugiono, who is unable to attend this event as he is currently in Doha representing the President of the Republic of Indonesia. He has asked me to extend his warm regard and appreciation to our host and all participants and to deliver this remark on his behalf. It is an honor and privilege for me to give the keynote speech for second India-Indonesia Track 1.5 dialogue, a joint platform from our leading think tank group where the policymakers and experts from our countries come together to actively discuss our shared interests and deepen our strategic cooperation. 70 years after the historic Bandung Conference, the principle that underpinned that moment, principle of sovereignty, non-alignment, mutual respect, and inclusive development remain vital for today as they were back then, at a time when the geopolitical landscape is undergoing. Provinces Indonesia and India stand firm in exercising their diplomatic autonomy in a multipolar world. Neither unipolarity nor bipolarity can sustainably address the diverse challenges and aspirations of the international community. Instead, a multipolar order, one that promotes balance, inclusivity, fairness, and respect for international law is crucial. Indonesia and India, as two of the largest democracies, are uniquely positioned to exercise agency that reflect not only our national interests, but also our collective commitment in advocating for world peace and tackling global challenges. From our collaboration in multilateral forums such as G20 and BRIC to advancing energy transition initiative, maritime security, and digital connectivity, our engagement show how like-minded nations can lead to constructive dialogue and a plan of action. I believe this dialogue is not just an opportunity to reflect, but also to forge new pathway for Indonesia and India to co-shape the norm, framework, and practices that underpin Earth's resilient and equitable world order, one that respects diversity of voices and foster mutual growth. I look forward to productive discussion in this upcoming session in order to strengthen the bond and partnership between our two great nations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Dindin. Next, I would like to invite your attention to the screen for the recorded keynote address from His Excellency Pabitra Margherita, Minister of State for External Affairs, Republic of India.
Namaskar, Salamat Pagi dari India. Excellencies, distinguished participants and dear friends. It's my pleasure to join the opening ceremony of the second India-Indonesia Track 1.5 Dialogue. I commend Gateway House, Center for Strategic and International Studies, Indonesia, and the Embassy of India in Jakarta for organizing this important forum. We find ourselves today amid shifting dynamics of global power, heightened geopolitical contest, and economic conservatism in the form of tariff and trade barriers. At this critical juncture, we should ask ourselves what values of the past should we preserve, what must we reform, and what should we rebuild for a new world order. I have no doubt to acknowledge that what we need to preserve is the spirit of Bandung. Bandung Conference of 1955 was probably among the defining milestones of the 20th century, which laid down the principles of non-interference, mutual respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, and peaceful coexistence. Friends, COVID-19 pandemic exposed the deep inequities in the modern day world. Its economic fallout triggered a wave of protectionism and conflicts in many parts of the world. We are seeing many parts of the developing world lacking access to health, vaccines, and critical resources. What we need to reform is the inequality, lack of access to resources for Global South to bridge the developmental gap. What we need to rebuild is a modern system that represents all and acts for all. Meaningful reform of the global security and financial architecture with adequate representation of the Global South in one step in that direction. Greater connectivity, digital developmental, physical, maritime, and human within the Global South is another step. In answering this challenge of reform, India and Indonesia, the two founding voices of Bandung, are uniquely positioned to lead the global discourse towards an equitable world order reflective of the contemporary realities and aspirations. Our two countries have similar challenges and aspirations. We both aspire towards strategic autonomy and multi-alignment in a pursuit of national and global good. Prime Minister Modi's Big Sheet, Bharat 2047, and President Prabowo's Indonesia in March 2045 are two complementary vision documents. The visit of President Prabowo to India in January 2025 has opened many new pathways of bilateral cooperation. At global platforms like G20, ASEAN, and BRICS, we need to find more convergences of words and actions. Friends, to conclude, the polycrisis world needs new rules, reforming the non-functioning old global mechanism, building upon the Bandung spirit towards a world order that is fair, multipolar, inclusive, equitable, and resilient. I hope that this forum will deliberate on this way forward for India and Indonesia in this direction. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, Excellency. To formally close this opening session, we'd like to move on to the group photo session. We'd like to invite Pak Yusuf Wanandi, co-founder of CSIS, to come up to the stage for a group photo. Ambassador Rizal Sukma, Senior Fellow at CSIS Indonesia. Excellency Pak Dindin Wahyudin, Special Advisor to the Foreign Minister on Economic Diplomacy. His Excellency Sandeep Chakravorty, Ambassador of India to the Republic of Indonesia. Mr. Riki Eka Virgana Ihsan, Director for South and Central Asian Affairs at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Manjeet Kripalani, Executive Director of Gateway House. Ambassador Rajiv Bhatia, Distinguished Fellow for Foreign Policy Studies at Gateway House. Dr. Yose Rizal Damuri, Executive Director at CSIS. And Dr. Shafia Muhibat, Deputy Director for Research of CSIS Indonesia. Please come up to the stage. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Next, we can now move on to our main session of the public seminar. Our opening conversation today will be led and moderated by Dr. Shafia Muhibat. Dr. Shafia is the Deputy Executive Director for Research at CSIS Indonesia. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Shafia to the stage. I would also like to welcome and invite our distinguished speakers. First is Her Excellency Ina Krisnamurthi, Ambassador of Indonesia to the Republic of India, who will be joining us online. Second is His Excellency Sandeep Chakravorty, Ambassador of India to the Republic of Indonesia. Third is Pak Riki Eka Virgana Ihsan, Director for South and Central Asian Affairs at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Republic of Indonesia.
Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, excellencies. It's an honor and privilege for me to moderate this session that we will have today. This is basically not a very formal discussion, I hope, but we are designing this to be a little bit more of a flowing discussion, discussing some of the important issues that have been mentioned by the previous opening addresses and keynote addresses as well. Very important issues of bilateral relations between Indonesia and India. And specifically, what we are asked to discuss today is how do we navigate this? People say it's a complex bilateral relations, but it's a very long historical relations between the two nations. And in the midst of the current geopolitical situation, the big question is how do we navigate bilateral relations between Indonesia and India? These are two big countries. Both have their own priorities. Both have their own role in their respective regions, South Asia and Southeast Asia, respectively. And amidst of that, there are high expectations that these two great nations should be able to work together to bring some sort of stability in the midst of the current geopolitical situation. So it's a big task for the two countries, and it's also a big issue for us to discuss that this morning. And for that, we are privileged of having three very distinguished speakers. The first one joining us online, I'd like to say hi to Ibu, Her Excellency Ambassador Ina Krisnamurthi, joining us from New Delhi. Selamat pagi, Ibu Ina. I hope my voice is clear. May I please check if your voice is also audible to us?
Selamat pagi, good morning everyone, Ibu Sisi.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ibu Ina. Ibu Ina, as we all know, is our Indonesia's ambassador to India. The second speaker is His Excellency Ambassador Sandeep Chakravorty, who is India's ambassador to the Republic of Indonesia. So good morning, Ambassador. Thank you so much for joining us in this session this morning. And third, last but not least, is the newly appointed Director of South Asia at Indonesia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Bapak Riki Ihsan. Selamat pagi, Pak Riki. Terima kasih. So let's just start the discussion today. The first round is we will have some very brief remarks from our three speakers, maybe about 5 minutes max, just giving us some statements to open the discussion. What are the issues that you deem very important in our effort to navigate the bilateral relations between Indonesia and India? I'd like to start with Ibu Ina, Ambassador Ina. If you may have the floor now, please.
Thank you for giving me the first opportunity to share my thoughts. Good morning, everyone. Selamat pagi. Suprabat. Allow me to begin by thanking CSIS and the Gateway House for their continued dedication so that this track 1.5 dialogue could take place despite many technical challenges. I hope my voice is audible.
Perfect, Ibu Ina.
Yeah, okay. I think the two keynote speakers and as well the opening remarks already shared many views and hopes towards our bilateral cooperation in the current global dynamic, and I concur with all the views that the potentials and opportunities are abundant and the time to act is yesterday. Let me at the outset share my views of 6 C's. The first 2 C's are contact and connect. In the year 2023, we finally achieved the long-awaited direct flights from India to Indonesia. But however, many people tend to question, why only Bali? Why it is only after 75 years of diplomatic relations that direct flights can happen? What were the challenges that hampered it to happen in the past? Well, the key answer is traffic. Traffic is key. Traffic translates to passengers. Traffic means profitable for the airlines to fly more than 6.5 hours. The aircraft needs to be the big bird, which means around 300 passengers. Therefore, we need to create a stronger, continuous, and more intensive demand, or in a simpler way, increase the people-to-people connection and contact. As an Indonesian representative in India, it is very sad for me to learn that since early on, the P2P is quite low, even on tourism. Establishing rules of direct flights may be easier than establishing the glue that holds the bridges in people-to-people context. I'm a strong believer that the biggest homework of our future relationship is building more substantial bridges of connection between our people, be it education, health, technology, energy, or even defense. My second C's are cooperate and collaborate. My guru sitting there in the podium, which is Pabitra, Sandeep, and myself, try many new and more progressive approaches in enhancing the collaboration between our two countries. What I have learned so far, I'm here almost 4 years now, the most effective strategy is to focus on certain areas of cooperation with many variables of collaboration. The most appropriate examples are 2 sectors. I just want to take 2 sectors, which are health and digitalization. 2 very important deliverables during President Prabowo's visit to India last January. On health, let me discuss on health. Creative and innovative ways and means for stronger collaboration are significant because we need to also acknowledge that both countries have their uniqueness and it is complementary. In the policies, capabilities, capacities, and also we both have huge population. Let me take one factual evidence, which was when we exchanged support in 2021 during COVID-19 pandemic. Indonesia earlier provided India with oxygen cylinders, and then only 3 months apart, India helped Indonesia with oxygen and concentrators. It shows that we have complementarities to a certain extent. Sister hospitals, exchanges of doctors, exchanges of nurses, transfers of knowledge and technology are, and will be important factors in creating what I said, the glue of substantial bridges of people to people contact. On digitalization, one highlight is in the issue of financial digital transformation, where India is without a doubt a leader in this field and has outperformed global peers in key areas such as digital payments, personal finance management. While on the other hand, Indonesia's curious transactions with Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand have reached a total of more than 110 million US dollars by June 2025, and trials have begun in Japan and China. The local currency transaction agreement will surely give a push to digitalization collaboration. Digital mapping and statistics are also significant area of collaboration for the future. For the short term, interestingly, both countries will conduct their individual censuses next year. Indonesia with its economic census, while India with the 16 national censuses. As for the future, as the biggest countries in the region, as in Southeast and India in South Asia, in population or economy, both countries need to establish a reliable governance statistic, as it is fundamental to ensuring inclusivity, transparency, and accountability. In line with the Minister of State of India said, we both have similar aspiration of becoming developed countries in our 100 years of independence anniversary. My last C's are coherence and convergence, as both countries constantly emphasize the importance of leveraging the global South, collective economic power, democratic frameworks, and strategic positioning to advocate for equitable global governance. You may recall that the year 2023 holds special significance in the tapestry of our interactions. The presidency of India in 2023 and also Indonesia's chairmanship in ASEAN happened parallelly in that year. As part of Troika, since early on Indonesia is committed to extend full support of India's presidency in G20, and we are truly proud to play an active role together with Brazil and South Africa in the drafting process of the summit's outcome document. And for that, I would commend India's strong leadership in the G20. On the other hand, the attendance of Prime Minister Modi at ASEAN India Summit and as well as Asia Summit in Jakarta back-to-back with G20 Summit not only underscored the importance of our bilateral ties, but also the broader regional partnership that can shape our region and indeed the world. Next year, India will be the helmet of BRICS as the first Southeast Asian nation to join BRICS. Indonesia may bring unique perspectives to this important grouping, and during the recent virtual BRICS summit, President Prabowo already strongly called on BRICS to uphold openness and continue close coordination and cooperation in present world of uncertainty, marked by double or even triple standards where international law is constantly ignored. Summits of G20, ASEAN, India, AS, BRICS for Indonesia and India are not merely avenues for leaders to meet, but certainly are avenues to cohere and converge vision and missions in the effort to achieve our common interests and find solutions for the common concerns, just like when both nations initiated the Bandung spirits. So finally, I would like to close by my belief that the 6 C's that I already said are the best enablers in the effort to navigate our bilateral relations in the current global dynamics. And we thank you for your kind attention and all the best with dialogue. Terima kasih, Dhanyawad.
Thank you so much, Ibu Ina. So the 6 C's as enablers, I think that helps us a lot into mapping some of the important points in the bilateral relations. I'd like to go next to Ambassador Chakravorty. You've heard about what Ibu Ina said about her ideas about these enablers of good relations. We'd also love to hear some of your thoughts, what we can do to strengthen bilateral relations.
Thank you. I think the seventh C is CSIS. I don't know. It's a hard act to follow Ibu Ina. I think she has been very, very comprehensive. And I think we are speaking from the same talking points. But I must say that there is a great deal of coordination between your embassy in New Delhi and Indian embassy in Indonesia. Sometimes we wonder for which government we are working. Sometimes that is the kind of coordination we have. But I must say that before I try to add to, I would be very careful in not repeating what has been said in the inaugural session. I think Ambassador Bhatia, then Pa Dindin, and our minister, and everybody who spoke, they set the tone for the discussions, and I don't want to get into the culture and the history and the civilization links between India and Indonesia. That is very well known. But I would try to refer to some of the challenges we face. But before that, I just want to compliment CSIS and Gateway House for organizing the 1.5 dialogue. I think the dialogue itself, the starting of the dialogue last year itself is an achievement. We haven't been, despite being such close partners, haven't been able to have this kind of a dialogue. And the interesting point is that this is the second dialogue in 2 months. Last month, again with CSIS, we had the Jakarta Futures Forum, which was based on technology and new areas of cooperation. And within a month, we have the second dialogue. So that shows if leading think tanks of India and Indonesia are looking at this relationship, then something must be happening. It's not normal to have so much of think tank activity focused on two countries. So I'm very optimistic as far as that is concerned. One data point which I want to put right away forward is that by the middle of the century, India and Indonesia combined will represent 20% of the world population and about 15% of the world GDP. I think we should keep this in mind when we are talking about our cooperation and collaboration. We have plans of Viksit or Developed India and also EMAS Indonesia. And when we work on these plans, I think they will start making huge global impact, and we will become important global players. And I think with that perspective and being important countries of the South, global South, I think our collaboration is important. Everybody talks of potential. Talk of potential without a base is meaningless. I think with Indonesia and India, we have the base. And the base has been built on the shoulders of great men, as Ambassador Bhatia said, but also a great connect between the two countries. We may not have as many direct flights as we want, but India remains the second largest tourist source country for Indonesia. And we have only one direct flight every day to Jakarta, but we have two flights daily to Bali, and the demand is for more. So there is interest in connecting the two countries. I think because of several issues we have not been able to do, but it's a happy situation since 2023 when there were no flights between the two countries. What I want to say is that India is Indonesia's third largest export destination. Now, we don't figure in the conversations. We are, if you see the trade discourse in Indonesia, it is somehow obsessive about the US, Europe, and China. But if you see the data, we pushed Japan from third position to being the third largest export destination for Indonesia. And even in India, Indonesia is our fifth largest trading partner. Again, Indonesia doesn't seem to appear in the discussions. When you talk of trade these days, only one destination matters, and only one deficit with only one country matters. But our deficit with Indonesia is the same as Indonesia's deficit with the US. 17 or 18 billion US dollars. But we don't talk so much about it, and we don't take steps to address it. And it may become in the future an issue between the two countries. So I think the problem we face between India and Indonesia is lack of attention from everybody, not only from the government, from think tanks, from everybody. And I'll give you one very specific point here. I'm sorry, Ibu Ina, if you spoke about the potential and the areas we talk about. I'm talking of implementational issues. I think that is important to highlight. Since President Prabhu's visit to India in January with a large delegation, there has been only 2 ministerial visits exchanged between the two countries. And both have been ministers of Indonesia going to India. Minister Dr. Fadli Zon went for the WAVE Summit, and recently we had the Minister of Human Rights go to India. But we haven't had a single ministerial visit from India. I think this is an important deficit, because whatever we may say, high-level ministerial visits provide impetus to relations. They bring focus to the relation. They make bureaucracies, foreign ministries, other ministries concentrate and do work and work on outcomes. I think this has been a major deficit in the ties. I am hopeful that with India assuming the BRICS chair next year, that problem will get resolved to some extent. We will have more high-level visits. BRICS, Indonesia becoming part of BRICS, I see it very positively, because I think it adds another layer to our bilateral ties. I would even venture to say that Indonesia should look at becoming even a member of BIMSTEC, which is a Bay of Bengal forum, and they have recently changed their charter, and they have now allowing new members. Thailand is a member of BIMSTEC. I think BIMSTEC can then provide further impetus to our bilateral ties. In 2018, we visualized a target of $50 billion of bilateral trade in the next 10 years, so by 2028. I think that target has to be revisualized. We announced a target, but we did not have a roadmap for that target. I think it is important that trade officials from both sides should sit together and draw up a roadmap on how we propose to achieve that target. If it cannot be $50 billion, let's set a realistic target. But we need to work on setting up a realistic target and the roadmaps and what all both countries need to do to increase the quantum of bilateral trade. Ibu Ina mentioned about the 6 Cs. I think there is an important D to the 6 C, which is defense cooperation. Again, I feel that India and Indonesia are placed similarly. Both the countries have Western and Russian systems. We have a medley of systems. We face challenges in servicing them. We face challenges in interoperability. And India has a success story in terms of indigenous production of defense equipment. And we have now become an exporter of defense equipment. I think the demand and the desire is there in Indonesia. We can be a valuable partner in establishing a robust defense industry in Indonesia. And I think over the last 1 year at least, we have taken some steps in trying to build that defense partnership. Not very high fancy items and defense equipment and systems which catch headlines, but we are trying to get into some basic areas where we can work together in building Indonesia's defense industry. Another area where I think we can work together, given the level of confidence and trust and mutual relationship we have between the two countries, are trilateral formats. We have a fledgling India, Australia, Indonesia trilateral format. I think that provides a lot of potential, that there are many areas in which we can work together. We find little bit of diffidence on the part of Indonesia to engage in this framework, but I think as Indonesia has excellent ties with Australia and with India, I think we can really work on that. Another framework where some work was done a few years back is the India-France-Indonesia trilateral framework, where again I believe we can work together, because particularly in the defense sector, where India has worked with France in acquisition of French defense systems, Rafale aircraft, Scorpion submarines. I think again there we have huge amount of experience where we can share with Indonesia and move forward. And third point, which again another trilateral framework which occurs natural to me and it is happening on the ground, is the India-Japan-Indonesia trilateral framework. I think there not much work has been done, but I was very impressed to see that an Indian company, L&T, working on the Jakarta Metro, using funds from JICA. I think it's a very good, solid example. A large number of Indian technical experts, engineers are working day and night to expand the Jakarta Metro. And I think it's a very good example of financing from Japan, work in Indonesia, and some technical support from India. I think this could be one framework where we have not worked that much and we need to look at it more closely. My colleague will join the next session and talk about ASEAN. But again, I think we believe in ASEAN centrality, and as a bilateral ambassador to Indonesia, I believe Indonesia is central to ASEAN. I think the bigger role Indonesia plays within ASEAN is good for ASEAN, and it'll give it a greater profile. And there again, I feel there are many opportunities to work together, and we can even look at ASEAN Plus arrangements where Indonesia and India and maybe some other countries. Some people suggest that even Quad could be one of the plus in this equation, where we can bring positive energy into both our bilateral ties and these plurilateral frameworks that we have. My last point would be that we have had a very, very high profile visit earlier this year, but what we need, and I think the challenge is both for Ambassador Ina and me, is to implement the decisions that were taken in the summit. Otherwise, we will soon be staring at another high level visit, this time maybe incoming, and we may not have much to show. I think we look forward to discussions today and help from our colleague in the Foreign Office to make sure that some of the decisions and aspirations which are very well articulated by Ibu Ina are fructified and we have results on the ground. I think we have lots going on. We have many sectors where we can work together, but I think the challenge has been a lack of attention from both sides to what can be achieved in the relationship. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Chakravorty. So again, of all the different priorities, of course, the implementation issues is, of course, always a challenge, and I think we can discuss more a lot on that later on. Now I turn to Pa Ricky. So please also share our insights looking at it from the Foreign Ministry.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to thank the organizer for convening this timely discussion. And my position is in a lesser situation than Ambassador Chakravorty, because now all the talking points have been discussed by both of the ambassadors. Well, on the question of how Indonesia and India can navigate the partnership amid this shifting global order is one of the strategic importance that we need to discuss, and this forum is among one of the leading forum that we can do so. The visit of our president to New Delhi early this year has reinvigorated the commitment of both of our countries through the comprehensive strategic partnership between India and Indonesia. And both countries are maritime democracies and are rising economies in the Indo-Pacific area, and we share a historical bond and a common vision to ensure that our region remains open, inclusive, and rules-based. And in the big picture, Indonesia's vision is to uphold, of course, ASEAN centrality, while advancing practical cooperation that contributes to regional stability and prosperity. And that is where India comes in. And hopefully with all this strengthening of relationship by visit or high-level visits can be translated into an applicable strategies and programs that have some mentioned by our ambassador in New Delhi and also by Ambassador Chakravorty. And I see that as an opportunity to strengthen at the grassroots level, not just at the political level, and how it will be a foundation for the business people to take a look at this relationship as an opportunity for them to participate and contribute for the increase in the bilateral trade between the two nations. For India, with its Act East policy, there is a clear determination to be more engaged with Indonesia, Southeast Asia in general, and a wider, of course, Indo-Pacific. And these two visions are, of course, complementary. And together, India and Indonesia can form a stronger foundation for a future-oriented partnership. And I believe that discussions such as this would facilitate that, would provide opportunities for the different stakeholders to provide inputs for the government that are providing the foundations, that are providing the umbrellas for this cooperation. And hopefully, with the results of this discussion, we can get more inputs and provide our business people with the opportunity to strengthen the collaboration between Indonesia and India. Now, to seize the current geopolitical momentum, India and Indonesia must invest in three strategic areas. First would be economic resilience by enhancing trade, investment, critical technologies. Both our countries can have a strong foundation for this, creating this economic resilience that would be translated into a stronger economic cooperation between our two countries. And the second would be, as mentioned by Ambassador Krisnamurthi and also Ambassador Chakravorty, was about the maritime cooperation. Building on our shared interest in freedom of navigation, blue economy, and joint capacity building, such as the cooperation between Bakamla and the Coast Guards of India, is to secure the Indo-Pacific sea lanes. And this is an important issue for a stronger maritime trade, for example, that will be enhanced in terms of its security, not just between Indonesia and India, but would also contribute to the flow of trade, of global trade in general, that would pass through our region back and forth. And thirdly, is of course people-to-people linkages. Well, strengthening education, culture, and mobility, so that our partnership is not only on a government-to-government basis, but also strengthened in the society-to-society and eventually people-to-people. This, India has an advantage because Bollywood movies are all over our channels, and also Indian product like Bajaj, Vespa was here historically already in Indonesia. And what we need, of course, is to reciprocate with our products, our culture to India, and I hope this forum can help us enhance this shared people-to-people linkages. Now, Excellencies, the global order is in flux, as mentioned by the two ambassadors, but is also present opportunity. Indonesia and India are well positioned to shape this future of our region by working together. The task ahead is not only to manage the challenges, but also to turn them into drivers of cooperation and mutual benefit for the people. I think that will be my input. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pak Ricky. So again, sizing the geopolitical momentum, opportunities of working together, and I think some of the things have been strongly emphasized by all the speakers. Let me just go back again for a quick, recap about what we have been discussing. If I can go back to Ibu Ina again, and I think both you and Ambassador Chakravorty as well has mentioned about the importance of BRICS in India next year, and how it might actually be one of the promoters of closer bilateral relations between Indonesia and India, not only within BRICS but also bilaterally. How do you envision Indonesia, approaching the BRICS in India next year? Ibu Ina, if you can share with us some of the insights about what Indonesia has been preparing.
For the BRICS, I may not be the right person to answer the questions, but in the framework of bilateral, if you remember in 22 when we were the presidency, we hold the presidency of G20, we start talking about sustainable living. And then in 23, India elevated that concept by what India called LIFE, life. And also on health, India did an extremely important work on that in the framework of G20. So I believe, I think I mentioned it in my remarks about the digital mapping and also statistics. I can share in the forum that I'm currently very focused and prioritizing this because digital mapping in a way of understanding us as the biggest countries, two biggest countries in the world, it's a very important work to be done, the governance statistics. We need to be more relevant in a way of understanding what BRICS can do in global politics. That is why the governance statistic is very important, because then it can elevate BRICS in a way of being relevant in the global dynamics. And that's the first. Second, I would like to mention about what Sandeep said about challenges. I think I concur with him, the challenges. What I mentioned about the 6 C's is my way of explaining how to overcome the challenges. One of the things that I also, Ibu mentioned about, or Sandeep mentioned about how to move forward in the bilateral framework. I think what we need to do is to always review and evaluate the structure cooperation, be it in bilateral and also plurilateral. The structure that we have now, bilaterally, is very, how should I say, big, but may not be effective and efficient in overcoming challenges of the current global dynamics. I think on BRICS, I cannot say more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bu Ina. Can I go to Professor Chakravorty again, picking up some of the issues that was mentioned. And I do think that, although we are trying our best to promote basically promote bilateral relations between Indonesia and India, Indonesia and India keeps meeting in a lot of different forums. I mean, BRICS is one, and you mentioned a lot about the trilateral framework, which I think is a really good alternative to push forward some of the issues that are difficult to do within the bilateral channels. What are some of the main efforts that you think is worth of pursuing even more in the future? All of these different frameworks, be it bilateral or multilateral or regional, which are some of the issues that you think would be, one of the best alternatives for Indonesia and India to work together?
Thank you. I think just referring a minute to the BRICS issue, what happens is that, you see, India-Indonesia ties got a boost when Indonesia held the presidency of G20. It was a collateral advantage that we got, and similarly when India held the presidency, I think our bilateral ties got the boost. I think it's the nature of these multilateral frameworks that the host country and respective countries' ties get focus and a boost. BRICS has many, operating and working groups and many forums. And I think Ambassador Bhatia is here. He is quite an expert in BRICS. In fact, during his last visit to Jakarta, we had organized a seminar with Habibi Center on BRICS. And I would say that as far as India is concerned, in this trilateral frameworks, we should look more closely at maritime cooperation. We are maritime neighbors, and there are, you'll be shocked to know that we don't even have direct shipping lines. We transshipped in Singapore or in Malaysia. Okay, and we are only 160 kilometers. Sabang from Nicobar is only 160 kilometers. I believe on a clear day you can even see lights of India from Indonesia. But we don't have direct shipping lines. We don't have enough trade between our ports, and we do not have enough of coordinated patrols. We have expressed the desire to be part of the Malacca Strait Patrol. I think the Malacca Strait is the most vital straits or shipping lane here, and all countries have agreed, the partner countries, but somehow we have not been able to concretize it. I think that is one area where we can work together. HADR is another area. Our littoral areas are subject to typhoons and cyclones. I think HADR and rescue at sea, these are the areas where I think we can very, very easily work closely together without creating any suspicions or ruffling any feathers. I think we all are very conscious of that. We don't want to annoy anybody. We are sensitive to that. But I think Indonesia is an archipelagic country with long coastlines and large coastlines, and India is a maritime neighbor. I think our maritime cooperation needs to be stepped up. I think I am very, very clear about that.
Thank you. Pariki, I think you also put a lot of emphasis on maritime cooperation. So maybe to discuss more of that and then putting into context, but because we're discussing about the changing global order. And I think at the maritime domain, the changing global order has a lot of consequences in terms of how these maritime nations cooperate, or even some of the important maritime issues and maritime disputes, and I think put a lot of pressure on how states can work together. What are your thoughts on this? Is it really an opportunity that we can grab, or is it more of a challenge?
Thank you very much for that important question. I believe that, as I have mentioned before, that maritime cooperation has become an opportunity for Indonesia and India to fill in this growing partnership that we have, among others, of course. And this maritime cooperation will be the foundation of other stronger cooperation, like in the terms of economic trade, as mentioned by Ambassador Chakravorty, that maritime, not just in terms of security, but in terms of the strength and flexibility of its capacity to assist the increasing trade between our two countries is very important. And first, of course, the cooperation between our coast guards is among the low-hanging fruits that we can start with. But of course, other than that, we'll look at the other possibilities. For example, the shipping lanes that was mentioned is certainly up for grabs by connecting the different stakeholders in the maritime industries of both countries. Probably as a continuation of this forum, is certainly something that I look forward to facilitate as part of the partnership between India and Indonesia, and to fill in all these opportunities into this framework of stronger bilateral cooperation, not just between our governments, but between our business people, and also between the academias and think tanks between our two countries, to find in new solutions and new innovative programs that the governments can endorse and hopefully help to facilitate in the upcoming future cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I would like now to open the floor for some questions from the audience. But before I do that, I would like to also leave for some food for thought for all of our speakers. One thing that I think also an important element is the South-South cooperation. I remember a few months ago, Ambassador Bhatia came to CSIS and gave an excellent lecture on when we commemorated the Asia-Africa conference, and how both Indonesia and India are promoters and even active thinkers about South-South cooperation. And I think that is something I would also like all of the speakers to mention later on. But first, let me go to the audience. If there are any questions that you would like to ask, please. Yes, first, may I come to Manjeet? Do you have a microphone coming to you? Any others? Please raise your hand so I can take a note. Yes.
Thank you. We've talked a lot about cooperation, but there's one missing element, and that is business. Neither the business of India nor the business of Indonesia are stepping forward to what is now critical time for collaboration. And I think all of us wonder why. We've got the academics, we've got the government all stepping up. But why won't our businesses do it? I mean, we're all hard pressed to understand why. That's.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I've got another one. Can you please introduce yourself? So.
Okay. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Chris Wibisana. I am an economic journalist from Suar. My question is regarding to the explanation of Ambassador Krisnamurthi, Ms. Ina. We have underlined the importance of the digitalization in cooperation between India and Indonesia. My question is whether the sector of financial digital economy like QRIS will be implemented in India soon, as we have implemented in Malaysia, Singapore, and Japan recently. Will the QRIS as the bridge of the digital economy between the two countries will be available in India in the next few months or years? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll stop here for the first section. I'll open up again some questions for the audience later on. So basically 3 issues. My question about South-South cooperation, and then about the business sector, and lastly about the financial digital economy. Ibu Ina, can I go to you first?
Thank you, Manjeet. I think my answer would be, again, I don't want to speak on behalf of Pak Sandeep, but I myself see that the maturity of our relationship now urge us to think more creatively in terms of B2B. So that is why the concept of sister hospital is there, and what we are doing with, for example, collaboration in agriculture sectors, but not only trading, for example. It is beyond the traditional trade and investment, because we are so mature. Even Sandeep mentioned about the deficit and surplus on our side, and lacking of understanding for the business community. What I learned during my tenure here, if we very much focus on the traditional trade and investment, we will not move on in the discussion beyond surplus deficit. So that is why the embassy in Delhi is focused on beyond traditional trade and investment. That is why the direct flights existed. Maybe it's not so much of a business collaboration in our mind, but I think baby steps are there in terms of collaboration of between business, but not in the understanding of only numbers and volume, like trade and investment. On the curious, let me answer it by the local currency transaction agreement was signed in March 24 by the Governor of Central Bank Indonesia and RBI in Mumbai. And the process of this LCT also involve or include the digital economy framework. So it is our hope that QRIS will also include India in their in the arrangement of implementation between the central banks, the two central banks. They are now already, I think, asked Indonesia's investment, which is Maybank Indonesia in Mumbai, to start doing the transaction in local currency, with a hope that the transaction will be increased, and as such, the QRIS will be happening maybe later next year, or even sooner. I think that's my answers.
Thank you, Buina. Ambassador Chakravorty, please.
No, I think Manjeet ji's question is very valid. But I think one impediment has been economic conservatism, in the sense that both India and Indonesia have policies of make in India and make in Indonesia. So the traditional route of trading is closed. And when you want to just do trading, there are several impediments and barriers: tariff, non-tariff, regulatory, local content requirements. So the route, as Ibuina is mentioning, is that you will have to, for instance, if an Indian business has to operate in Indonesia, the best way is to set up a local company and start manufacturing, add local content slowly, and then you are identified as a local company, and then you can not only make inroads into the Indonesian market. Indonesia also has many FTA arrangements. It's part of RCEP, as Jose mentioned. You can enter into many markets, and I think many case studies and success stories are there. I'll just give you the example of TVS Motors. When they came here, they found a lot of headwinds, and they could not compete against Japanese two-wheelers. But they were very clear that they have come here and they will not go away. So they started taking on the Japanese in Indonesia, and they had started looking at ASEAN markets. And they are now one of the largest exporters from Indonesia into Philippines. And they make models here for Africa, and they sell back to India. So I always champion the TVS model, is that you have to persevere. You cannot get quick returns in this market. Indonesia is very much like in India. It's not easy to understand the market. You have to persevere. And those who have persevered have done well. And the two shining examples are Indorama and Lakshmi Mittal. They started from Indonesia and now they have conquered global markets. So if you come, this is the message I give to Indian business, that you cannot just look at a trading relationship. Those days are over. Indonesia is now wanting to create jobs in this country, do local content requirements. You have to make in Indonesia, and you make in Indonesia for the world. I think this is the model which will succeed. Some companies are embracing it. Some are hesitant, maybe for investment, from the investment point of view, also maybe from the market size point of view. But I think this is the road which we have to take. And similarly, I'm sure Ibu Ina is doing the same thing, encouraging Indonesian companies to invest in India. And I'll give you a small example. We are facing some difficulties with export of groundnuts into Indonesia. And we are the largest exporter of groundnuts. And groundnuts in Indonesia is in everything that you make and eat put groundnuts. And so we export a lot of groundnuts, and there are some regulatory issues. And I was talking to a friend, and he says, I am one of the largest importers of groundnuts into Indonesia. So I said, why don't you come, we'll have a coffee. And he came, and he tells me, I import groundnuts from India, but I have a biscuit making factory in Bangalore, and I want to enlarge it. Please help me find a marketing person. It is Garuda Foods, Ibu Ina. And I was quite surprised that, Garuda Foods has had the vision to invest in India and making cookies and biscuits in India. And they have a very ambitious plan, because they know that, Indians like to have their morning cup of tea by dipping a biscuit in the tea and having it. And they have captured that point. And I'm going to push them a lot to invest in India and expand their businesses. I think this is the model which will work. And traditional models will not work anymore, because every country is very conscious that you cannot just trade and take away wealth from that country. You have to make in that country, transfer technology, know-how, and create jobs. I think this is a transition phase. I'm sure we will soon see. We'll cross the hill and see the other side. We'll find more Indian companies investing in Indonesia, and Indonesian companies investing in India. And that road is clear now, and I think it's a matter of time only when that will happen. On Kris, we are in very advanced talks with Indonesia, and I think the integration discussions are happening. The issue we have faced is that in India we have only one switch for digital payments, whereas in Indonesia you have 4 switches. And so you have to integrate our switch to all the 4 switches. So it needs, and all the switches don't work on the same protocol. So it has been a technical and technological challenge, and also a cost factor. But work is going on, and we will soon have. Another issue has been that the flow of people is one-sided. We have lots of Indians and tourists coming into Indonesia, so they find it useful to use our UPI ID, but not enough Indonesians going to India. So the benefit cost for Indonesia has been a challenge. But I think it has been sorted out, and so maybe later this year or early next year, we will have that integration also in place.
Pariki, please.
Thank you very much. Now, a lot has been discussed by Ambassador Krisnamurthi and Ambassador of India in Jakarta, that we are having to strengthen this South-South cooperation for the benefit of not just our people, of course, also for the global South. Well, in my perspective as the policy creator, for India and Indonesia to lead this global South effectively, they must first demonstrate, of course, the ability to translate this bilateral cooperation into a tangible and something that the people can feel directly with measurable outcomes. As a prerequisite for moving the symbolism to functional cooperation, We need to shift from just high-level summits, meetings, and statements to joint implementation, just like have been mentioned by Ambassador Krisnamurthi and also Ambassador Chakravorty. That thing can be made reality by setting up joint task force, by different institutions, by ministries that focuses on different topics of common interest. Example, health, climate change, you have food securities that are, of course, a priority for Indonesia. And also, as mentioned, about digital economy. And hopefully the business-to-business side can join up and take advantage of this discussion among the joint task force between our two countries. And of course, as also mentioned, important in this implementation framework from summits to realities to people, is the investing in connectivities. As mentioned, we need to have stronger connecting flights between our two countries, stronger and better maritime transportation connections. And of course, also in the digital sphere, you have this QRIS that was being discussed by our two ambassadors as a financial infrastructure that will support all this strengthening cooperation between our two countries in the economic sphere. And another point on that is, of course, the involvement of the non-state actors. Just like today, we have the participation of the academia, the think tanks, to provide us with inputs and recommendations on how to go along in this journey of togetherness between Indonesia and India. And the civil society would definitely be a source of innovation for their inputs and innovative programs that can be adopted by the governments into their programs within the bilateral relation of the two countries. And so the two countries can continue to evolve in strengthening the relationship, not just between the two governments, but exactly being taken advantage by the business people and also being felt by the people directly. As such, Indonesia will continue and to actively participate in various global forums. Indonesia and India are sitting next to each other in multilateral forum by alphabets. And so we have so many things that we can do together and coordinate within the different multilateral forum under G77, NAM, non-aligned movements, BRICS, of course, where India will be chairing next year, and hopefully all these advantages of BRICS can be brought to Asia next year, and Indonesia and India can play a stronger role together as a representative of the region. This participation, as mentioned by our opening speakers, and the remarks was, of course, based on the Bandung 10 principles and of equality, solidarity, inclusivity, and also non-intervention. And these are going to be the foundation of our stronger bilateral relationship. And we are committed to promoting these principles and, of course, resulting in the unity among the global South countries. I believe that would be my input. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have time for a very quick one or two questions. So I have, I have 4 hands. I'll take them all, but please be very, very brief. So let's go from the very front to the very back. There are 4 hands that were up, yeah. And please introduce yourself.
My name is Pasha. I'm a foreign policy analyst at the Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia. And I just wanted to ask to all the panelists, why do you think the relationship between India and Indonesia has been largely ignored, particularly when it comes to people-to-people connectivity? Are there any efforts to improve people-to-people relationship, particularly considering that the two countries have strong civilizational ties, as demonstrated by Indonesia's strong Hindu past that is still very much present in modern culture today? Thank you.
Thank you. Next one, please. Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Christopher from the Philippines, and I wonder, to what extent could Indonesia's accession to the OECD create divergence in the developmental trajectories of India and Indonesia's relationship, given that both currently are OECD key partners, and how might this shape their engagement towards each other and towards the BRICS and the broader global South? Thank you.
Okay, very quickly, and then the next one, yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Omar. I'm a research fellow at the Central European Institute of Asian Studies. My question is this. This seminar is called Navigating the India-Indonesia Bilateral in a Changing Global Order. However, there are some issues that perceive in the India-Indonesia relations whenever framework, for example, the potential trilateral cooperation with Australia wants to be expanded. For example, Indonesia wants that potential trilateral cooperation to include South Africa, but India wouldn't really agree because it goes against their Act East policy, whereas any language that includes balancing against China and so on is very sensitive for Indonesia, and that is something India might want to include. So how do Indonesia and India, how are they capable of overcoming these fundamental differences? Thank you very much.
Thank you. All the way to the back, Ibu, please. Yes.
I'm Susie from University of Indonesia. I was just wondering, within this discussion, it's never came up the issue of tariff by Donald Trump. And as Indonesia tries to get oil from India, importing from Russia, with this kind of tariff that is being encumbered upon two nations, would make them closer together and work together to overcome this challenge.
Thank you. Last one, very quickly over here. Can I get the microphone? Yes, please.
I'm Ashish Bhardwaj from India, from the Birla Institute of Technology and Science. I'll build on what someone asked earlier about partnerships. What is it that the two nations need from its academic institutions to start working closely on at least the disciplines of history, cultural studies, development studies, theology, which seem to be very low-hanging fruits to start with?
Thank you. So 5 questions, quite a lot. I'll give the chance to all of the speakers to respond to. You can pick any, you don't have to answer everything. You can pick any questions that you feel you're interested in. Can I go in reverse order and ask Pak Ricky to go first?
Thank you very much. I would like to probably talk about the low-hanging fruits that can be taken by the working with academia. Of course, as I mentioned, that I believe that the stronger foundations between people to people is the basis for a stronger relation in any other fields. Once you have the connection between people to people established, especially when it comes to academia among both of the countries, you have so many other fields that you can explore together and find the opportunities of common interest that can be determined between the interests of the two countries. Meaning that if if it's a government to government, it is going to be formal. The track is going to be already established, and not much creativity in the finding a solution. But once you create this forum for academia to discuss, and they can always take advantage of their experience in other fields and cooperation with other countries. They are much more open to new ideas instead of just following the what do you call it? The track of least resistance. Yeah. Now, by increasing the connectivities with more exchanges of students, of professors in different fields, allowing the academia to provide inputs. Just like think tanks, CSIS can provide this input to the government by the result of this meeting. It would be certainly a very valuable input for the government, because then we can take a look at the alternative options of course of actions that we can take that are probably not in a conservative way usually being thought by the government. Can be very creative and can be something that has roots in the people that are being taught by the academia through their surveys and their studies, connecting with the needs of the people. That's
Ambassador, please.
I think very insightful questions. As far as people-to-people contact is concerned, I think one answer was already given by Ibuina, is that I think traffic is an issue. We have not been able to find creative ways to increase the traffic between the two countries. I think if we have more direct connectivity, we will find more people-to-people contact, and some of the areas we are working on, which is healthcare and education. If these fructify in the coming years, then we'll find more people-to-people contact. As far as the OECD question was concerned, I don't think it's an issue at all. We already have good ties with many OECD countries, and if Indonesia becomes part of OECD, I don't think that will in any way diminish its ties with other non-OECD countries. So I don't think that's a challenge. On tariff, I think it's an opportunity. We have high tariffs have been imposed on India and Indonesia by the US. I think that means we should sell more to each other and take advantage of this challenge and do more trade with each other. Next month we are having the meeting of the working group on trade between India and Indonesia. There is already a talk of a bilateral trade agreement. We are at the moment undergoing review of ITIGA. Very low tariffs are imposed by India on Indonesian exports, and similarly there are low tariffs on Indian exports, but we are working on even removing those. So the ITIGA ASEAN-India Trade in Goods Agreement is being reviewed. So we are actually in a very low tariff zone, both India and Indonesia. I think we should take advantage of that and remove non-tariff barriers so that we sell more to each other and reduce the impact of high tariffs imposed by the United States. There was one question about, I think academic and think tank cooperation has been very limited. This is the second edition of 1.5. Why not the 10th edition? Our scholars don't work together. You don't produce joint papers. You don't have research projects. There is no, for instance, there is a discussion now with BRIN that India and Indonesia, our Science and Technology Ministry and BRIN could fund joint projects, scientific research projects. And I think more is needed to be done. These are new areas of cooperation. I think if Indian scholars write more about Indonesia and Indonesian scholars focus on India, I think that road will be traveled. It's a road which we have not traveled far as of now. I think these are more or less my responses at the moment.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Last but not least, Ambassador Ina, please.
Terima kasih Bu Vivi for giving me the last opportunity to answer because Pak Sandeep and also Pak Riki already answered almost all. I would like to start with the last questions about the academic institutions. Interestingly, if you see in Indonesia or in India, I will kind of challenge everyone to mention one name that in Indonesia that is an expert on India. That is none. And also in India, there is no one person that is an expert on Indonesia. So even that shows how what Pak Sandeep said about the lacking of exchange of papers, exchange of research and projects. So I think I need to appeal and urge everyone to be in Indonesia, at least to start thinking about Indo-Pacific in a larger way. It's not only Southeast and East Asia, but also South Asia. Pak Sandeep mentioned about BIMSTEC. I can say that maybe less people understand what is BIMSTEC, Pak Sandeep. Maybe someone will be interested on BIMSTEC after this discussion. On P2P, I think what we have done, the embassy and as well the embassy of India in Jakarta has done, is to find, like I said in my opening remarks, to find collaboration that is very deep in the engagement of P2P or has potential for P2P. For example, the healthcare, we have doctors, we have nurses, we have lab. So many people involved in the healthcare care sector. So health becomes very, it's a driver in our P2P effort in a way of increasing traffic. Second, education. Before COVID, we have around 1,000 students, but now after COVID, we need to kind of reinvigorate and also push students from Indonesia come to India more. India is very generous in giving scholarship in whatever format, but we cannot cope with the number, the quota that India has given. Very lacking of interest in going to India, although India has so many bright universities and also expertise. So we need to make sure that the education sector is also pushed forward. And my last point on fundamental challenges of trilateral, I'm a very positive person. The fact that there are conversations between countries, it shows the interest is there. To find a solution or common denominator of our concerns and interests is the key in the process of diplomacy. And diplomacy never happens in one night. It happens in process, and also we need to ensure that national interest is also taken into consideration. So I think fundamental challenges is happening everywhere, even in ASEAN. But I think the fact that we are in conversation, it shows that the interest is there, and we need to push and forward whatever avenues that we have, including the BRICS. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibu Ina. So we've heard, the comments from all the three speakers, and I think we have had a very rich discussion in this session. And as we've talked about, this is the second 1.5 dialogue between Indonesia and India. Of course, we wish to continue on for many years in the future. And I think some of the things that were discussed here in the session, at least CSIS and Gateway House are making a list of some of the key takeaways from this session, and hopefully to be able to discuss them more in depth in the next editions of the dialogue. And with that, I end this session, and I ask you to join me in a round of applause to all of the three speakers. Thank you so much, Ibu Ina, Ambassador Chakravorty, and Pak Iksan. I hand back to the MC.
Thank you, Ibu Fifi. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, we have concluded our public seminar. I would like to express my deepest gratitude to all speakers, moderator, ambassadors, and diplomatic representatives, as well as our guests present in this room. We look forward to welcoming you again at our future events. We hope the discussion this morning will be a foundation for the Track 1.5 dialogue and future engagements between India and Indonesia. For those present in our auditorium, lunch is provided at the pre-function hall just outside. We wish to invite you to join us for lunch. And once again, thank you for your attendance and participation, and we hope to see you at our future events. Thank you.